Kris Dreamer is probably the hardest Deltarune character to talk about, apart from December Holiday, since so much of their character either hasn't been revealed yet, since we don't have all the chapters, or is in media outside of the game, like the Spamton Sweepstakes, specifically Noelle's blog. But I do think that with the knowledge we have, we can create a pretty comprehensive idea of their character, their motivations, and the reason for their contradictions. So, here's what we do know. We know that they have a mother, as Toriel, their a father, Asgore, and their brother, Asriel. Though you don't see everything that they've gone through, we do know that they are unfortunately the only human in a town full of monsters, leading to a lot of emotional ostracization as we see in the story. But it wasn't always like that. Originally, they were very close to almost everybody in town. They were a bright and mischievous person. And we see that throughout the story when it comes to Tana, Burger Pants, Caddy, and Braddy. They all tell stories about how Asriel and Kris were as thick as thieves. They were constantly getting into trouble with each other and going on adventures. There's this, and alongside they were also doing this with another two characters, Noelle and December Holiday. They're neighbors. We know that they did this for a long time until an event happened, December Holiday's disappearance. We don't have all of the details on where she went or what even happened to her, but all we know is that at some point before the story started, December Holiday vanished. We don't know how Kris reacted, but we do know what happened to the rest of the people in their life. The first consequence was Carol, their mother, December's mother. She presumably stopped interacting with the rest of the Dreamer family. We don't know exactly why. Maybe some form of guilt or anger at them. And the next fallout of Dessa's disappearance was Asgore, or his life crumbling. He was forced to resign as police chief, and Undyne took his job. And for some reason, Toriel divorced him. And he was forced to spend his days living in pretty bad conditions in his flower shop. Those two things must have been an emotional gut punch to Kris. Two pieces of their life, two things that they had for years, were just gone, taken from them. They had no control, no agency in anything that happened in their life. The next two were even harder hitting. Noelle Holiday, presumably Kris's best friend before all of this happened, just stopped coming over to their house. Presumably because, as we see throughout the story, Kris emotionally shut down after everything that happened with Des. The next thing that happened was Rudy. We don't know exactly what his illness is, but we do know that he got so sick that he's been left bedridden for years. He's been stuck in the hospital, unable to really visit their house. As everything happened, as their life fell apart without any agency or control, there was one person who stepped up, Asriel. Toriel was unfortunately able to take care of Kris's emotional needs. Though she tried her hardest, she was a teacher. She had her own life to live. Her emotional intelligence was not strong enough to truly help Kris. But Asriel did. Asriel presumably spent large amounts of time with Kris, taking them out to the diner whenever they were feeling sad and getting them a hot chocolate. We see that this memory is very sad. Their throat tightens when they drink it. And so that's what happened. And this can explain a lot of their character before we even get to talking about the story. They are a person without agency. Their life fell apart without any form of control. They were a bystander. They had to shut down emotionally. They went from a prankster or a troublemaker to a mumbly and moody teenager. We see that they emotionally shut down, and they changed drastically. But in the story, they have made a lot of contradictory decisions. They have been unemotionally surprisingly transparent with Susie, and their motivations and their friendship with her seems genuine. They aren't lying or hiding anything from her, apart from probably the biggest secret: their interactions with the Roaring Knight. They're more the, I think that they know that when Susie finds out, the emotional reaction she'll have might devastate them. We see that throughout the story, everybody in town is shocked that Kris just is talking to them. They, Noelle, Brady, and Caddy all bring up the shocking change in their expressiveness. And I think that this is probably one of the saddest things in the story. Imagine you are Kris, and somebody is so effortlessly able to just take over your life. Nobody even notices that you're different. Nobody even cares. This must have been emotionally devastating. And we see that throughout the story, there are some people that they are unwilling to hurt, no matter what. Noelle and Susie. Susie represents, to Kris at least, freedom, emotional freedom. She says what she thinks. She doesn't hide anything from everybody. She is outspoken. She doesn't need to. She isn't wishy-washy in what she wants to do. She's clear. She's transparent. And Noelle, to me, represents the lack of change in Kris's life. Similar to Kris, Noelle doesn't have much autonomy with how Carol seems to be an overbearing mother. But she's still bright. She's still bubbly. She still has a good life. She has friends. She has people who care about her and who she cares about. She's able to emotionally express everything she's feeling without hiding it. Kris is jealous of both of them. And we see the envy that they have when and we see especially their willingness to protect both of them. We see, when during the weird route they say please no when we're at Noelle's house, and they're willing to even bite their hand so hard it's bruising to stop us from insulting Susan. To me, this shows that Kris's contradictions are explained because of their lack of autonomy and their desperate want for control over their own life. They are an anomaly, and I think this will be shown much clearer in my Weird Route analysis coming up. This was Chatting with Tommy, and I hope any viewers who decided to listen in have a wonderful day.